Toastmasters and welcome guests. Today I have the distinct privilege of evaluating one Mr. Van Stewart, fellow in the Environmental Services Department. And I'm nervous because we all know Van really doesn't like to speak. He's very shy.
Extremely shy. I might cry during this, so don't.
I noticed that when I came in. He didn't say a word.
This is Van's introductory speech, his icebreaker. It's who am I? Who are you? I'm very interested to hear. Obviously, as the icebreaker, there's not any necessarily distinct goals other than just to get up here and speak and introduce himself. His target time is 5 to 7 minutes. And with that, Van.
Welcome, Toastmasters and guests. As my first speech, I want to talk to you guys about who am I and who are you? It sounds like a really rhetorical question, almost something that doesn't require an answer. But when you think to describe yourself to someone else who doesn't know you, it's a little tougher than it originally might seem. This reminds me of a movie I saw recently, and well, it was a funny movie to me, but I don't know if you guys will like it or not. The movie was called Anger Management. The movie starred Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler. And in the movie, Adam Sandler plays a guy named Dave who's mandated by the courts to go to an anger therapy program run by a doctor who is played by Jack Nicholson. And the whole point of this anger management program is that Adam Sandler must convince Jack Nicholson that he's not an angry person. And if he can convince him of this, he won't have to go to any more program meetings, which he really doesn't want to do anyway. They have a meeting, and there are several people wrapped around the table at the meeting, and they're all talking amongst themselves. And there comes a point in the meeting where they have to introduce themselves to the group. And it comes Adam Sandler's turn. He really just wanted to sit in the back and be quiet, and hopefully this thing will go away, and Jack would just sign his papers, he could walk out and leave. But Jack Nicholson rose and he said, "Okay, Dave." Dave was a character played by Adam Sandler. He said, "Dave, stand up to the group and just tell us who you are." And Adam Sandler said, "Okay, well, I'm an account executive for a major advertising company." And Jack stopped him. He said, no, don't tell us what you do. Tell us who you are." And he said, okay. Well, I'm a nice, easygoing guy. I like to play tennis from time to time. Jack stopped him again. Jack said, "No, don't tell us your hobbies. Just tell us who you are." And he said, I don't know how you want me to answer that question. And he looked to one of the guys in the class, a guy named Lou, and he said, "Lou, what did you say?" And Lou laughed. And Adam Sandler was getting a little nervous at that point. And Jack Nicholson said, "You want Lou to tell us who you are." And the whole class laughed. Now at this point, Adam Sandler's getting a little nervous. He doesn't really know what to say. He feels as though he's not impressing upon Jack Nicholson the fact that he shouldn't be there and that he's not a nervous, angry person. He said, no, it's not that I don't know who I am or I want Lou to tell me. I just don't know how to answer your question. And Jack said, "It's really, really simple. Just stand up and say who you are." So Adam Sandler said, "Okay, I'm an easygoing guy. I'm a little bit indecisive sometimes." And Jack stopped him again. Jack said, "No, don't tell us your personality traits or your characteristics. Tell us just real simple, who are you?" He said, "I don't know what you want me to say." And the whole class just gasped. And he thought, I messed that up. It was a very Baltic atmosphere in the room at that point because he knew not only did he not achieve his point of saying, "I'm not angry," he's going to have to go to a lot more anger management classes after that. He couldn't properly tell the class or Jack who he was. And why does that make us so nervous in the first place, telling people who we are? Why is that such a hard thing to do? It seems like it'd be pretty easy just to tell people who you are, but it really isn't. Who am I? Who are you? In the olden times, people used letters of introduction to tell people who they were. If you didn't know me, I wouldn't come up to you and just tell you who I am. I'd walk up to you with a letter written by somebody of high esteem, of high moral standing, who you respected and I respected, and I'd hand you the letter and I'd say, "Read this." And the letter would say something like, "Welcome, this is Van. He's a nice guy, the kind of guy you want to get to know. High moral standing, high moral fiber. Accept him." And the letter would do the purpose of introducing me to you. The letter would take out all this angst that I'm having or problems I'm having in introducing myself to strangers. But is that letter really true? How do you know the person who wrote that letter wasn't a complete moron? How do you know the letter wasn't forged? How do you know that guy really wrote that letter? And how do you know that guy's image is really true? How do you know? I found through studying people like Robert Burns. We knew from history that he was born in Scotland. Okay, does that tell us who he is? It tells us his nationality. We know where he's from, but who is he? We know that he was the son of a farmer, and for a time he was a farmer. So we know what job he held, but does that tell us who he was? No, not really. We know at the end of his life and after he passed on, he became one of the greatest poets ever to come from Scotland. But again, does that tell us who he was? No, not really. It tells us something about him. So how do you tell somebody who you are? And I found there's 3 things you need to really consider when you want to talk about who you are. Your origin, how you started out. For me, I started out the south side of Chicago. Went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school, Catholic college for a while. Developed a love for science and mathematics and eventually became an environmental chemist. That's my beginnings. The second part you want to look at is your career, the apex of where all your training culminated, where it led you to. For me, that led me all over the world. I've traveled many places. I've been to England, I've been to Texas, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Indiana, now Michigan working. So all that training brought me here. And the third thing you want to consider is toward the end of your career in your life. You can look back and see the impacts, the people you've met, the impacts you've made in life, how you've interacted with people, and how you made relationships and bonds. Those 3 things can give you an idea of who a person is. But even more so than that, look at the timelines between those 3 periods. The time between when you were a youngster and your career got to its peak. That time was the time when you were molded and developed into the person you became. And look at the time period between the top of your career and toward the end. You can see the people you impacted, you affected, the people you mentored and brought along. If you look at the whole scheme of your life, that will tell you a lot about who you really are. Not to look at a window or a small piece of your life, that'll tell you something about a person. But if you look at the entire panoramic view of your life, play the whole movie through. Don't watch just one scene. If you play that whole movie through, you can get a very good view of who you really are. So you know about who Robert Burns is. Know a little bit about who I am. Now who are you? Thanks.